Another day, another deep dive. Y'all know the drill. We're going to take a look at two players on the 40-man today. We're going to take a look at Zach Short and Daniel Norris. Some conversations to be had about their futures with the Tigers organization. And we're going to spend the first part of the episode, probably just segment one, talking about the Arizona Fall League. We haven't done an Arizona Fall League update yet for Tigers players. So we're going to do that at the beginning. Then two players, jam-packed episode today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Thank you for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. For those watching on YouTube, do you like this vibe? This is not. I'm back home tomorrow, so my real setup and everything. I'll be back to that, but because I'm on the road, I don't have my crane, right? Like the big metal crane that holds my mic. So I'm just kind of holding it. Kind of I don't know what. Broadcaster, field reporter, maybe. I don't really know what this vibe is, but I kind of mess with it a little bit. Kind of I like talking with my hands, and it kind of opens me up to talk with my hands a little bit more. I don't know. I kind of like it though. Like a reporter. Like a field reporter, courtside, field side. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from it. Okay, so as we said in the cold open today, we are going to talk about a lot of players, I guess, because of the Arizona Fall League update, which is what we will do right here at the beginning of the show. We're also then going to take a look at Zach Short and Daniel Norris, talk about their futures with the team and what they did for the Tigers, what roles they filled in 2022. First, though, as stated 3 times now, we are going to take a look at the Arizona Fall League. Some important things to mention when it comes to the Arizona Fall League, right? First and foremost, this level of competition is not fantastic. It's not amazing. It's not I'm trying to figure out what the easiest comp would be to where it would fall within the levels of the minors. It's certainly worse than AAA. I would say that it's probably lesser than AA. So here's the thing. It's fascinating and I love it. And I love the AFL. I love the fact that players can get a chance to develop more. That's its main purpose, right? For developmental purposes. I love it. I love everything about the Arizona Fall League. It's hard to, the reason why we haven't been doing updates every day or even every week since the season ended with it is just because it's so difficult to find out how much you really want to take from it, right? How much of a grain of salt, how big is that grain of salt that you want to take from it, I guess is my point, right? So it's tough. I want to walk a fine line, but I do want to give updates and everything because it is baseball being played, and we do have some bigger name players over there within our organization, at least. I also think it's interesting to note that one of the other reasons I really like it is because it's not 30 teams, right? So it's not like every team has an Arizona Fall League team. Every team has players mixed in with their Arizona Fall League team. That didn't really make sense. That didn't come out the way I wanted it to. Affiliation-wise, 4, 5, even 6 teams per team, right? So Jordan Lawler is playing with the Detroit Tigers prospects. Jordan Lawler was a pretty highly regarded shortstop prospect. Last draft? Or not last draft, but last draft. So Jordan Walker, who I'm going to let you in on a little secret because I don't like the St. Louis Cardinals at all. I cannot stand them as an organization. They ruined my childhood, right? Big hater as far as the St. Louis Cardinals organization goes. However, Jordan Walker might be my favorite prospect in all of baseball. Unfortunately, it really sucks. And there were kind of like some rumors that he might have gotten traded or something last offseason. But I promise you, that dude is generational. So it's kind of cool for me just to see like my favorite prospect in baseball play with the prospects of my favorite team in baseball. That's kind of a cool thing. But when let's talk about the Tigers players and the impact that they have had so far. First and foremost, Dylan Dingler did hit well, but only played in 4 games and now has kind of an injury thing going on. Probably won't play for the remainder of the AFL. However, it also, in the same breath, sounds like he will be ready to go spring training 2023. Not going to miss any time as far as his professional career goes. He's just going to take the offseason and recover. But hit well for whatever it's worth in 4 games in the Arizona Fall League. Like, that's my point. Like, it's a smaller sample size. It's against talent that varies all across the board. I mean, Joey Wentz was in the AFL, but then we also have dudes that are, like single A pitchers or single A hitters. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough to really gauge. So I think for pitchers, you're more just looking for how much stuff moves and how much command has been solid, right? That was barely English. You get what I'm saying, though? And then for hitters, obviously defense is kind of translates across all levels. If you're a good defender, you're pretty much a good defender. But offensively, again, especially based on what we saw from the Tigers team this season at the major league level, just hit mistakes. Like if you're sending a ball way out of the strike zone outside and you're a righty and you're flicking the wrists and getting it out to right field, like that's great and that's very impressive. Go with the ball, like have impressive at bats for sure, but like just hit balls that you're supposed to hit, and we'll worry about the development of the other pitches against stuff that might not be great later. All right. So we talked about Dingler. Colt Keith, I want to say for last, because Colt Keith is absolutely amazing. Parker Meadows. Parker Meadows has really struggled in the Arizona Fall League. That's kind of a weird development because Parker Meadows had a fantastic season and I think will get picked up onto the 40-man. I think Parker Meadows is a guy that if they don't, he's going to be Rule 5 eligible, and I don't think they want to risk that. Even he's not necessarily a guarantee to get taken in the Rule 5, but I think he had a good enough season this year where I think that's something they don't want to risk. So seeing him struggle, I don't know, like this is kind of narrative ball. I say it with the NBA Summer League. It's like my favorite thing to say. I say it a lot with like the prospects tournament in the preseason and hockey. Like Arizona Fall League is really only something you should utilize to fit your narrative. And I know that kind of sounds like a joke and kind of like, okay, like that's funny, but like for real, like I'm half kidding, but also I'm kind of not, in the sense that yes, you should not just blindly, like if someone's struggling, they're struggling, obviously, but what are we going to look at 18 games of Arizona Fall League ball with Parker Meadows and just completely dismiss his almost 900 OPS in the minors across 2 levels this season? No, you shouldn't do that. I wholeheartedly believe you shouldn't do that. But in the same breath, if someone's crushing the ball and they had a great season, then you can be like, hey, look, they're still crushing the baseball. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's kind of like extra credit on a test. That's how I view the Arizona Fall League. If you stink, well, I don't know. It's the Arizona Fall League. If you're good, all right, let's talk turkey. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So struggling, but it doesn't change my opinion of what to do with Parker Meadows this offseason whatsoever. Not even a little bit, not even remotely. Gage Workman. Okay. So here's the thing about Gage Workman is that he's doing my itchy nose, dog. I don't know how that keeps happening. So Gage Workman has yet to really hit for a super great batting average yet, just like professionally. But has shown the ability to slug, has shown some power, struggled a little bit this year, I guess I'd say. And that was pretty noticeable at the plate, to be honest with you, but he's athletic. He can be a good defender at third and even at short. This is a dude that on draft day, I really liked. Draft day 2020, I really liked. Went to school with Torque. It was kind of an interesting story. And so far offensively just hasn't really been able to get over the hump of having like a super low batting average. 15 strikeouts in 17 games, only 3 walks drawn, low OBP. So that's just something like, again, this just kind of reconfirms what we already know when it comes to Gage Workman. Like 200 batting average in the AFL so far in 17 games, low OBP, low average, but a 475 slugging percentage. That's pretty dang good. Again, just reconfirming kind of what we already know. I guess that wouldn't really change anybody's opinion no matter what, because that's pretty much what he's been doing. So even though the slugging this year, especially for the first half of the season, he kind of struggled. But just someone to keep an eye on for. Like next season, I think is a really big kind of make or break season professionally for Gage Workman. So someone to keep an eye on for sure. Okay, we'll get into I don't think, well, Colt Keith we have to talk about, but I think the only pitcher, there's a couple pitchers. Okay, so we'll get into and finish the rest of the AFL players that I want to talk about. But first, I got to tell you all about our friends over at Roan. The dress shirt was due for a radical reinvention. All right, and Roan stepped up to the challenge. Roan's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man, and here's why. Roan's comfortable four-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. It's time to feel confident with a wrinkle-free shirt without the hassle. With Roan's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt. It's that easy. With Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Roan is 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. The commuter shirt can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. So head to roan.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% off of your entire order. That's 20% off of your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/locked on and use code locked on. It's time to find your corner office comfort. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Greatly appreciate each and every one of y'all. I'm really liking this loose mic thing. I don't know if it's gonna like stay, but like I really mess with it. I really enjoy talking like this. I don't know why. I don't know why this is so different in like a positive way for me, but I really enjoy it. So there you go. We'll see what happens. We'll see. No promises either way. Okay, so finishing up the Arizona Fall League conversation, we're gonna save Colt Keith for last. Joey Wentz lit the Fall League up. I don't think he's gonna pitch too much more in it, if at all. I think he's probably done pitching in the AFL. Actually, it might have been reported that he already was. That might be confirmed by somebody important. So don't expect to see him too much more. But the reason why is because there's nothing else for him to prove here. Like he got put on the 60-day IL and people were like, oh my goodness, why the 60-day? Well, at the end of the season. And that removes him from the 40-man roster, which we will get to at some point when discussing the players we're going to discuss for this episode in their deep dives, because that kind of correlates to them too. But so it got him off the 40-man, but also it was an ability for him that not being on the 40-man and not being on call, he can go straight to the Arizona Fall League from the end of the season. And that's what they did. He got put on like 4 or 5 days left in the season. He got put on the 60-day, just went straight to the AFL and started pitching. Ended with, assuming this is the end, with a 0 ERA. I mean, can't get too much better than that. All right, 0 ERA and 3 starts. That's 12 innings. He had 4 walks and 14 strikeouts in 12 innings. That's a K per 9 of a little over 10. Yeah, I mean, he only gave up how many? 2 hits? 2 hits and 3 starts. And granted, they weren't very long starts, 4 innings, but still. So I think this is just something that this just really reconfirms to me that he is like very much better than like the mid-level of the minors. Like at next season, at worst, he will be in AAA. There's no reason for Joey Wentz to be starting off the season or really at any point, barring injury, should be in Erie or whatever. He should be in Toledo right off rip or on your major league roster. And that's a conversation just in its own entity that's not correlated to him dominating in the Arizona Fall League. Again, I don't hold that much merit into it for certain players, and Joey Wentz is one of those players. Like, he's just very clearly better than his competition in this league. Great to see. Awesome to see. There was some video that came out. His stuff looked really solid, but, I'm not going to go, oh my goodness, he had a 0 ERA in the AFL. He's going to win Cy Young. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Joey Wentz next season. I think that's a pretty fascinating conversation, talking about what his role will be next year. We talked about it a little bit in the episode where we went over everybody that ended the season on the IL, but that's probably one we'll have a couple more times before the new year as well. Tyler Madison is the only other pitcher I want to talk about, and the only other player I want to talk about before we get to Colt Keith. So Madison is a friend of the show, for starters. Came on the show about a year ago now, probably. Maybe a little less. I can't remember. Maybe it was like mid-lockout. I don't remember, but came on the show, and he tore it up in the Arizona Fall League, which is a great sign. 0.96 ERA so far, and I'm speaking in past tense. It's still going on. I don't know why I'm speaking in past tense. That's my fault. I guess I was doing it for Wentz because he's probably done. But so for Madison, 9 1/3 innings pitched so far, a sub-1 ERA, 14 strikeouts in 9 1/3. That's really darn good. It's like a 13.5 K per 9. Really solid stuff. Whip of 1-1. And again, less than 10 innings, Arizona Fall League, et cetera, et cetera. Going to keep putting those caveats on it because I don't want people to blow up my mentions being like, oh my goodness, you're taking way too much merit in it. Whatever. This season was a struggle for him at the professional level. He had an ERA in the 5s, well into the 5s. And I think he's probably long for the bullpen. The thing is, even with his high ERA this season, Madison had very good strikeout numbers. And that's why I think he's longed for the bullpen, but in a very respectful way. I think he could have a really bright future of being a solid reliever. But yeah, in single A in Lakeland this year, had a 5.23 ERA, but a 12.7 K per 9 over a full season. So solid stuff. His home run numbers weren't that bad either. I think this is all fixable, and I really like him. You can see the sun is kind of doing a weird thing on my face right now. So I like Madison, and I think that this just reconfirms good strikeout guy, has the ability to overpower people. We'll see what he can do. If he can just eliminate some of like the extra base hits and some of the BABIP stuff, could be a really effective reliever. So we'll see that going forward. Now, Colt Keith is where we'll end on. I've probably spent too much time in the Arizona Fall League in just this update, but I think it's important. Colt Keith is mashing, right? And he had a bigger injury this season, missed quite a bit of time. But in 14 games in the Arizona Fall League, he's only 20 years old still. 14 games, has a 992 OPS, and has 13 walks on 9 strikeouts. His on-base percentage is almost 500, and his slugging percentage is 500. An OBP of almost 500 in 14 games. I don't care what league you're in. That is redonkulous. So yeah, he's crushing the baseball. And before his injury in 48 games in high single A in West Michigan, he had a 914 OPS. Was crushing the baseball. Batting average over 300, solid walk numbers, et cetera, et cetera. 9 homers, was kind of had some pop to it. Look, we can go into this at a later point in the offseason when we really dedicate a show to like maybe a minor league update or like my own rankings. Maybe we'll do that at some point in the winter. But Colt Keith has a legitimate argument for being the best prospect in this organization. And that's not a clickbait thing. That's not a, trying to be a hot take artist, whatever. That's legitimate. This dude is real. He is legit. And he's someone that a lot of people liked on draft night, but I think a lot of people assumed he would be a high average, solid middle infield defender type of dude. I think he was drafted as a second baseman. And now it's to the point where he's playing pretty solidly at third, and now his hitting with power as well. Again, a 544 slugging percentage in high single A this season. Still only 20 years old, going to be 21 next year. Colt Keith is legit. So someone to keep an eye on for. And it's cool to see him crush the ball in the Arizona Fall League. Okay, so that's it for the AFL. Like, I only meant to do one segment, but I do want to go over everybody that's playing and talk about them. And honestly, the conversations about the players we're doing are relatively quick. So it's okay. It might be a little bit over half an hour today, but Not going to be like a super long episode, I don't think. You will know. You can actually see on your phone or computer, wherever you're watching, the amount of time that this episode is, the length of it. So you already know if I'm holding up my end of the bargain and this isn't going to be a 45-minute out long episode, but we'll see. Only time will tell. And we'll get into that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. So let's get into the players. No time to waste. We're going to jump right into the players that we are deep diving today. We are doing, who did we say we're doing? We're doing Daniel Norris for sure. Oh, yeah. Zach Short. Zach Short and Daniel Norris are going to be the two players that we're going to look at in this one. So really, again, not like a super deep, long conversation, I don't think, when it comes to these guys. I think Daniel Norris maybe has a little bit longer of a conversation just because his future still might be with, A, the Tigers, maybe, but B, like has a legitimate chance to make a major league roster, maybe. Let's start with Daniel Norris. Let's just start having the conversation now and not talk about having a conversation. Let's just have the conversation. All right. Really weird year for Norris. Really weird year for the Van Man. Started off this season not with the Detroit Tigers, obviously, as we remember, and really struggled. There's no way around it. Really, really struggled in the first half of the season. And then got called up by got signed on a minor league deal, was in Toledo for a little bit after getting DFA'd, and then made the Tigers again. And it was kind of like this cool story, and I talked about it all the time. I probably sound like a broken record. All the time I was like, oh, this is a cool story or whatever, but I don't know. I don't really see Daniel Norris being on this team next year. So, I'm glad we need someone to give us innings. So I'm glad that he's here. I hope that he can provide valuable innings down the stretch because we desperately need it. But in the same breath, I don't know, I'm not moved by it. I'm not going to freak out and have a super great time. Kind of a cool story again that he's back or whatnot. But on a baseball level, it didn't really move me, right? And he was really solid in the second half of the season. And I feel like maybe I didn't give him his proper flowers or due diligence just because I was so keen on the fact that look, he's not going to be back this year. I'm not going to freak out about any of this, but he was really solid. If you just look at first half and second half splits, which is about his Tiger career versus not his Tiger season versus not his Tiger season. First half of the season, he had a 6.9 ERA in 27 games. Brutal. In the second half, he had a 3.45 ERA in 14 games. Really solid stuff. Month by month tells you the same exact story, but worth going over still. April and March, 6 ERA. May, a 5.73 ERA. June, almost a 10 ERA in 9 games. July, a 3.38 ERA, August, a 3.68 ERA, and September, a 3.21 ERA. And a sub-1 whip in September as well to end the season. Really solid stuff. So the biggest thing with Daniel Norris has been, and I think will continue to be, his ability to throw strikes on a consistent level. And that's not really a surprise to anyone. That's not really anything that we don't already know or that we didn't already know about Daniel Norris, even when the reunion happened. But that he has decent stuff. He always has had decent stuff. Now, the fastball velocity is a lot lower than it was when he was breaking onto the scene as one of the best left-handed prospects, in the American League at the time that we acquired him, right? So it's and he's had a lot of stuff that he's gone through off the field and whatnot, and he's just getting older, whatever. That's just kind of how all that works. But for whatever reasons, for a plethora of reasons, for no reasons at all, whatever it may be, the fastball velocity is now just a tick over 90. It's 91, 92. But that slider moves a lot, and the shape of it can be really confusing at times because it'll change dramatically. And sometimes it'll be really effective, and sometimes it'll be really not effective. But the reoccurring theme with all of his pitches is just the dramatic inconsistency to or to not throw strikes. And that's always been the thing with Norris. So, like this season, he had a 70, he was in the 73rd percentile in K percentage, upper third of the league as far as strikeout rate went. Whiff percentage, 87th percentile. Good stuff. Fastball spin, 94th percentile, even with maybe a lower fastball velocity that was only 19th percentile, right? So you go through and you have the makings of a dude that can get strikeouts. His expected batting average against was 61st percentile, not terrible. But all of the command statistics is where he pretty greatly struggled. Chase rate for starters only 28th percentile. So he was getting people to swing through pitches in the strike zone, but didn't really have the ability to go out of the strike zone. Also worth noting, lefty, his splits against lefties, really, since moving to the pen in his first stint with the Tigers, have always been pretty decent, relatively speaking, I guess. Have been solidish. So that will certainly help a little bit. But I mean, walk percentage, 11th percentile, almost, bottom 10% almost in the game of baseball. Expected slugging percentage, 39th percentile, not great, little below league average. Barrel percentage, 6th percentile. Brutal, right? Average exit velocity, 32nd. Hard hit percentage, 27th. Gets hit hard and walks people. And that's always been the thing. Has the ability to get strikeouts, has had the ability to get strikeouts. But when he misses his spots, he either misses way out of the zone so much that it's an uncompetitive pitch and can't get a swing and a miss on it, or get somebody to chase, or he misses in the zone and hangs that weird, inconsistent slider right over the middle and it gets cranked. And the changeup, too. The changeup has the ability to get hit hard as well. I'm not just trying to single out the slider. I'm not trying to be rude to just the slider. I'm not trying to be rude at all. But this is Daniel Norris giveth and Daniel Norris taketh away. Like, this is the Daniel Norris experience. We knew that. So when talking about his future, wow, the sun is doing a number right now through my window, and I can't get up to go close the blind. When talking about his future with the team, I still lean no. Everything I said, given everything I said, I still lean no. Now, a weird caveat in this is that there is a possibility, there is a world, there's a realm out there in which he doesn't make the initial 40-man roster, right? So we have like 9 players on the IL that we need to 9, 10. We have a lot of players on the injured list, okay? And we have to find room for a lot of them. And there will be a date set in the winter when baseball will go, hey, you're not allowed to have anybody on your injured list. What's your 40-man roster? Assuming health. What is your 40-man roster? Then immediately, almost after that day passes, then you can go put people back on the IL. Not the next day or whatever. But you'll be able to put people back on the IL, and then the 40-man roster spots will open back up. If you have 60-day IL people, like Scooble will be on the off-season 60-day. Casey Mize will be, he'll be somebody that goes off just for that day and then gets put back on. So there is, I guess, long story short, there is a possibility, there is a reality in which I could see Daniel Norris gets chopped from the 40-man initially, and then maybe is brought back on a minor league deal if he really likes the organization. But I wouldn't bank on it. Chance, but wouldn't hold my breath. And but he's going to get a minor league deal somewhere. The second half of the season might have saved his career as far as getting a legitimate look. He will get that Drew Hutchinson-esque. I was going to say Julio Teheran. That's probably not a great example. But that Drew Hutchinson-esque, Willie Peralta-esque minor league deal where a team will get him and go, hey, the second a pitcher gets hurt, you're on the 40-man, you're in the show, but we're going to start you off in the season in AAA when everyone's healthy. I think that that's probably about what to expect from Norris next season. Is it with the Tigers? Again, I would say most likely not, but I don't think it's completely impossible either in the same breath. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Zach Short, really quickly. Did I accidentally say Cody Clemens in the open? Did I even say the players' names in the open? Well, we're talking Zach Short, okay? So I think this is a pretty quick one. I don't think Zach Short will be here in the matter of like a week. I don't think Zach Short is really longed for this roster. Look, this is a dude that we got for half of a 60-game season of Cameron Maben, who was like a negative win player that season, or at least when we traded him. So like, we're not crying about the return. I'm not like, oh my goodness, like this is a complete failure of a player, a failure. You know, we lost the trade, whatever. No, like who cares? But he was a -1 win player last season. -1, a whole -1 win player last season, and then just like didn't play in the majors this year. And why? Because he's not a very good hitter, and like that's relative to major league standards. I always like putting that in there because, like, obviously he's one of the best hitters on the planet. But in comparison to the major leagues, just isn't up to par with it. Like his offensive numbers just have never really been there. And again, we're talking about a guy who was a -1 win player last year, and largely due to his offense. In 61 games at the major league level in 2021, he had a 141 average, a 239 on base percentage, and a 282 slug. That's a 521 OPS. And then in 2022, well, we're going to look at AAA because he barely played at the major league level, only had a few at bats, truly. And in AAA this year, had a 727 OPS, and that was pretty much entirely due to walking a lot. Now, everybody who knows me and has been a listener of this show knows that I love players that draw walks. They are my favorite thing on the planet. The thing is, 373 slugging percentage, not great. Your OBP is almost as high as your slug. That's usually not a good sign unless you're, like Barry Bonds or something. And then a 229 batting average in AAA. Not great. Defensively, he can play multiple positions and he can play them decently. I think last year there was a slight overreaction to, oh my goodness, Zach Short is a great defender. And I probably played a part in it. And I don't remember every single take I've ever had, but I probably fueled into that a little bit. I think that we were just so accustomed to like Willie Castro and Harold Castro playing shortstop for this team in 2020 and 2021 that when Zach Short got a like kind of legitimate look at shortstop in 2021, I mean 60 games, whatever, but played innings at shortstop last year, we were like, oh my goodness, this dude is a defensive wizard. When in actuality, he was just like better than what we were used to. Again, back to the Matt Shepard quote. That's like our big thing this offseason. Like that's what I keep going back to. We're raising the bar. We're not trying to compare people to other people on the Tigers. We're trying to compare people to good baseball teams and good baseball players. Defensively, he's okay at a few different positions. And it's just offensively, it's just not there at the major league level. It's not. And he's about to be 27, I think, or he might be 27. Yeah, he is 27. He's going to be 28 in May of next year. So early in the season. I don't think that that's someone that is longed for staying on the 40-man roster. So I fully expect Zach Short to be removed from the 40-man. Now, again, anybody can get axed from the 40-man and then come back on a minor league deal. I would not hold my breath on Zach Short being that player. And it's really too bad because, again, he does draw walks at a really good rate, and I think he'll get a job somewhere, a minor league deal somewhere because of that. It's just really unfortunate because I do love the guy. Like he seems like a really cool dude. And I love players that draw walks. I wish that he could help teach that to other players in his organization. But the offense, when it's not a walk, is so poor, honestly, that it's just not even worth it. So when it comes to likelihood of those two being on the 40-man on opening day, Zach Short, we're going to give like a 5. I will leave a slim chance just because of the walks. We will leave a tiny, slim chance that Scott Harris acts. There's no way he's going to make it through the first cuts of 40-man, but like maybe he comes back on a minor league deal for a depth signing that's not even on the 40-man next season. Well, that would not be on the 40-man, would it? I guess it's 5%. We're just going to leave a 5% buffer just because of the walks, okay? This sun is brutal. Daniel Norris, we're going to give like a 15. I still don't think it's very high. I'm pretty convinced that he will not be a Detroit Tiger in a few weeks, and that will remain through the offseason. But we're going to give a slim chance for him to not make the first round of cuts on the 40-man and then turn around, and when they put everybody back on the IL in spring of next year, maybe he sneaks his way back on. Again, this is a 15% chance. This is not likely. I don't think this is going to happen, but I think it's more likely that he's on there than Zach Short, but still less than a lot of other players, Donovan Scopes, January Candelarios, etc. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every day. For your next listen, check on the Locked On Sports Today podcast from the games that matter from the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. When will I ever get through that sentence correctly? That's my question. Let's play a game. When will I ever get through that sentence correctly? That's like 3 episodes in a row. I've completely botched that. Sorry about no episode on Halloween. Like I said, on the road, internet spotty, setup spotty. But I am back. Well, when I'm back, by the time you're watching this, I will be back home. So we're chilling. We're back to every day, back to your regularly scheduled programming, and we'll be ready to rock. We're cranking through these player breakdowns. I think we're going to be able to get through everybody by the time that roster moves start happening, so that's cool. And the World Series is almost over, which means that Tigers offseason and roster moves are almost here, and I'm super pumped about it. I'm super pumped about this sun not being in my face anymore either. Okay, peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I will catch y'all tomorrow. Go Tigers, baby.